Recording from the heart of Providence, Rhode Island, you are listening to the Red Card Report podcast. If you like the show, head over to iTunes, leave us a review, and even share the podcast with your friends. Also, don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button on any of your favorite podcast apps so you get all the latest updates and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in this week. We hope you enjoy the show.
In the studio tonight, we have. So, Dylan, what
All right,
do we have in
everybody.
store today?
What have you have for us?
Another week, we are without Joe Capuano.
Damn.
He lazy employee.
Goes on vacation whenever he wants.
Telling you,
Bachelor parties. He's in New York right now.
man. Yep.
Austin to New York.
With Joe out, of course, that means we need a substitute. And what better substitute than having Eddy Baptista back with us again after he was on with us for the last episode talking about VAR.
Damn, back at it again. Second week in a row. Feels honored. Look at that. I got a call up right after.
Well, if Joe's going to keep skipping podcasts like this, we're going to bring you on full time.
Damn, the transfer.
So, Dylan, what do we got today?
Both of you guys being big AC Milan fans, kind of just focus on Milan this episode. I want you guys to give me your impressions of how the season's gone so far, where they're going to be going in the future, how you think they'll end up in the standings at the end of the year. Will they be able to qualify, make it into fourth place, qualify for Champions League? But before we do that, I want to touch up on the Champions League games that happened earlier this week. I think it was, Tuesday and Wednesday?
Yep.
Or Thursday, whatever.
Thursday was Europa League.
Thursday was Europa League. That's right.
Yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday, Champions League.
So the first leg of the quarterfinal matchups in this year's Champions League started earlier this week, and we had games, couple good games. We had Tottenham and Man City. Tottenham being the home team, walking away with a 1-0 victory. Liverpool and Porto. Liverpool being the home team, walked away with a 2-0 victory. We also had Ajax and Juventus. Ajax being the home team, drawing with Juventus 1-1. And finally, Manchester United versus Barcelona, with United being the home team, falling to Barcelona 1-0. So very quickly, guys, give me some of your thoughts on those matchups, and then also if you want to touch up on some predictions maybe for the second leg.
Absolutely. So let's start with Spurs and City. So tying back into our episode last week, great example for how VAR was implemented. We had a Danny Rose handball that was actually called as a penalty, where Sergio Aguero took the penalty and Hugo Lloris came up big on the save. But it's just a great example just to show how well VAR can work, in just correcting the game. But all game, City was really lacking that finishing pass. They usually break down teams pretty early in that attacking third, but in that game, that was absent. Son came up really big on that goal. He scored the first Champions League goal in Tottenham's new stadium, as well as the first Premier League goal in that stadium. So I think Son's going to come up big in Kane's absence. So with Kane being out, don't know how long, he really filled in with a lot of goals. He was involved in 17 of the last goals in the Champions League for Spurs. I think that Eriksen's probably going to step up a bit, and City's probably going to change their approach in the next game. You think they'll bring out players like Kevin De Bruyne, Leroy Sané, who only came into the game in the 89th minute. So going to Etihad, it's, the game's up for grabs, 1-0 to Spurs, but I think City's really gonna try to relinquish the game and get that result.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Man City, I think it was just a bad game for them. They were very unfortunate. They didn't bring their A game, and with Harry Kane down and out, it's going to be really hard for them to not take advantage of that, because Harry Kane's a huge player. But also, aside from that, even when Harry Kane was out earlier in January, Son really stepped up and
absolutely
played fantastic the last time Harry Kane was out. But I don't know. I think Man City's just so good at making adjustments, whether it's just at halftime or even in the Champions League when they have to play that return leg. They know when to. Pep Guardiola knows when to make the right adjustments. He has the right players around him. So in my opinion, I think it's gonna be 3-0 in the second leg with Man City going through 3-1 on aggregate.
Okay, and I think for me, it might be a little bit different. City will definitely win at the Etihad. I think it will be a 2-1 game, the ball being in their court. And, surprisingly, I think Tottenham can pull through and really make a surprise, elimination in this competition and really make a statement to, a run to the final. So I'm siding with Spurs. Usually I don't because they're choke artists, but I think in this case, the result is in their benefit. So we'll see what goes on in Manchester.
Yeah, we'll see. So obviously 3 other games on the list: Liverpool, Porto, Man United, Barcelona, Ajax, and Juve. Any other comments on the other games? Or
Porto was a tough one for me. It was a tough one. I thought Porto played really well that game. Moussa Marega really kept Virgil van Dijk on his heels. Militão played incredible. Despite Porto letting up 2 goals, the first one was really unfortunate. It was just a deflection off of a block shot, and it just happened to go in. Iker Casillas had absolutely no chance. Overall, Porto, they did well. They weren't at their absolute best, but playing against Liverpool in England and, having a couple of opportunities to probably pull one back or even tie the game up, it's a good feat. I think there's hope for them when they go back to Porto because it's not easy for anyone to go into the Dragão and play there, even if it's Liverpool or whoever. It's a bit of a stretch. I'm going to be biased on this one for obvious reasons. I'm going Porto with a miraculous comeback, 3-0 at the Dragão. Wow. It's probably not going to happen, but Porto, I'm just going to put it out there.
Porto. Yeah, I think going to the Dragão is, extremely difficult. I think the absence of Pep and also Ander Herrera.
No, Hector Herrera.
Okay.
Dude, I always get them confused too.
So obviously going to the Dragão is going to be, a tough task for Liverpool. Porto, with the absence of Pep and Herrera, they really proved to be a costly absence. But I think in the second leg, with them back, it's going to change the face of the game. Obviously slide Militão out to the outside, and that's going to kind of change their dynamic. But Liverpool have their defensive liabilities, and if Marega's clinical, Porto can get an early advantage. But I'm still siding with Liverpool on this. I think that it's going to look like 2-1 with Liverpool coming out with the result in Portugal.
I hate when you do that, man, because you're usually really good at predicting these.
I love Champions League. I love Champions League.
You're really good, and I don't like that. I don't like that.
Sorry, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, all these games are within reach, so anything can happen.
Oh, yeah, especially for Manchester United playing against Barcelona. Only losing 1-0, not bad. And considering that they had 0 shots on target that entire game, and the 1 goal that they let up was an own goal by Luke Shaw in the 12th minute.
And funnily enough, that was another correction for VAR. So tying back into our last episode, a well-corrected goal from VAR, because originally it was deemed offsides.
Yep.
But then upon review with the VAR, they corrected the decision and it stood as a goal.
Yeah, I don't even know why I don't know what the hell the linesman was looking at. He was a mile onside.
But yeah, that was a rematch of the 2011 Champions League final. If you guys don't remember, that's when Barcelona just made Man United look like schoolboys. Overall, Piqué, really, stand out in the game. I thought he locked down, Rashford inside the box pretty well. And for the first time since 14 years ago, in the 2005 Champions League, Man United was held to 0 shots, and that game actually came against the Rossoneri, Milan.
We'll get to them in a little bit.
But yeah, I think overall Barcelona performing very average, just doing what they do, the bare minimum to get that result. So 1-0 in England is good for them, and bringing that to the new camp is, going to be advantageous. But as we've seen in Paris, as we've seen in Turin, who knows what Man United's capable. So, 1-0 is still in their court. So this can turn out to be, advantageous for them. So I'm predicting 3-1 to Barcelona, winning in at the Camp Nou, but I'm not putting it past Man United to, get a result there.
Yeah, you just don't know with this Manchester United team. They're just so spontaneous. Yeah, ever since Ole Solskjaer took over, that long stretch of wins that they had in the league, the upset over PSG, and even earlier in the season under Mourinho, they were still willing to grind it out and find that win against Juventus in Torino. Anything can happen. Obviously, it's only a 1-0 that they're that Barcelona has in the advantage. I'm sticking with Barcelona on this one. I think they just have too much experience. Manchester United, yes, the club has the history of being in the Champions League, but this team is just so young and they need to develop more and mature more.
Yep.
I won't be surprised if they pull it off because they're capable of it. But I'm going to stick with the Barcelona. I think 3-1 is a good score too. I'm going to go with 3-1 as well.
Yeah, and final game on the list was Ajax versus Juventus, and a surprising result with Ajax drawing to them.
Yeah. I mean, it came as a surprise to some, but I mean, I definitely expected it from Ajax, just, given the game that they gave us last match day against Real Madrid. So, I mean, it wasn't super surprising. They played really well, dominated Juve for a large majority of that game.
Yeah, about 75 minutes of the game.
Yep. It was 19 shots to Juventus's 7. So
in ball possession was I think it was in the
60 to 40 in ball possession. So who does that against Juventus other than
teams.
Atalanta in Bergamo? But yeah, amazing. I mean, they had standouts: Van der Beek, Ziyech, even Dusan Tadic. These guys, even Frankie De Jong. These guys are standouts in performing against world class players like Matuidi and like Pjanic. So, and these kids are all, 19 years old and just shining like that. It's huge. It's big to see. It's
great to see Tadic too, really getting into that form. Over the last couple of years, he's really been having a tough time in Europe, and now at Ajax, he's just having an absolutely incredible season. I think he's got 30 goals this year.
Yeah, he's up there. He's really contributing big to their attack.
Incredible.
Suits their attack very well.
But yeah, I was pretty shocked on how well Ajax played. I wasn't shocked about the 1-1 result. We look back at the Real Madrid game. I felt Real Madrid legs. I felt that Real Madrid was just having that terrible of a season where just nothing was going. So even if nothing was going for them, and even if they lost, it wasn't that surprising because nothing was going for them this year. Against Leganes this year, earlier in the league, Leganes, a team like Leganes had 74% ball possession in a league game against Real Madrid. Who does that? So you saw all the dysfunctions. It didn't surprise me, but playing against Juventus, arguably the best team in all of Europe, absolutely dominating in possession, making it difficult to push forward, pressing the Juventus midfield, and creating opportunities. Ajax really could have got a few goals in. Van der Beek had an opportunity early on, and somehow he just missed it. If he just put it on target, it would have went right into the back of the net, but he shanked it just wide.
They were firing on all cylinders.
And they were lucky too to get away with that penalty. But
yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see.
Any predictions on this one before we move on to AC Milan?
2-1 Juve.
So Juve being so pragmatic and cautious, I had it here as 1-1, another 1-1 matchup, probably go to OT. But I also can see it going 2-2 and Ajax going through on away goals.
Fair enough.
So who do you have?
Ajax.
You have Ajax going through?
Of course.
Yeah.
Why would I ever go for Juventus?
Well, I'm not rooting for Juventus. I'm just being, I'm being reasonable.
We'll see. I mean, it is going to be at J Stadium. That's going to be huge. I mean, Ronaldo, who knows, he might have another Atletico hat-trick performance. But other than the goal that he scored, they kept him pretty quiet during the game.
All right. Let's talk about AC Milan. You guys are both huge AC Milan fans, and they've had a pretty interesting season up to this point. A lot of ups and downs, some pretty big highs, a few lows.
Quite a few F-bombs.
A lot of frustration for sure. But yeah, I mean, take me through it. As AC Milan fans and someone who doesn't follow the team as closely as you guys do, walk me through some of your thoughts throughout this season and what do you guys think is going to happen moving forward?
So, I mean, starting Serie A was great. We started off on the right foot. And then, obviously we sustained a few injuries, had a poor stretch of games, leading into October. We had a very dreadful November, but then we picked things back up, December to January, really gained some ground in the table, which, gave us hope for Champions League and maybe even second place. But now kind of things are going back downhill, a string of poor results. We haven't won a game since Chievo. We've lost to Inter, we've lost to Sampdoria, tied Udinese, and we lost to Juventus last week. Controversial match.
11 out of the last 12 points, right?
Yes.
Or a possible 12 points.
Drops a lot of points, but what has helped us is that all the other teams around us, Roma, Inter, Lazio, have all dropped points as well. So
Atalanta too. They're creeping up. And Sampdoria is not too far behind either.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a small gap between all the teams in the league. I think between third with Inter with 57 points to 8th place Torino with 49 points, there's only an 8-point gap. So with some teams with 8 games to go, there can be a lot of closing in on that gap.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of this season. At first, it started off great, especially preseason, finding out that we had Higuain, we had this clinical finisher. This guy has had so much success in Serie A and the Juventus, and most famously with Napoli when he poured in 36 goals in one season. I felt that, having that go-to goal-scoring machine on this team that struggled dearly.
We needed a game changer.
They struggled dearly last season pouring in goals, and I thought this would, turn everything around. And unfortunately, it was a disaster with him. You can say that, in the beginning, it was hard for him. It's a complete new team. He doesn't have as much talent surrounding him. It's a project. The service is not the same. Maybe it's not the same style. He had to play deeper than he did before. But you know what? There was times where he should have done better. He was frustrated. I don't think he was happy throughout his entire tenure. And then, believe it or not, this was the best thing that happened to Milan, because as they were waiting for Paqueta, they also still needed to solve the Higuain problem, the Higuain position, the number 9. And they went out and got the Polish killer, Piatek. And
Il Pistolero.
El Pistolero. What an impact this guy is. What a breath of fresh air this guy is. I was so skeptical because, this guy was great at Genoa in the beginning of the season, pouring in goals. I didn't know if this was just, a one-hit wonder. I was still a little skeptical. But, man, he turned out great. He scored some great goals this season, one against Atalanta, one he took on Koulibaly one-on-one. That volley against Atalanta from outside the box across from Ricardo Rodriguez was just absolutely sensational.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing that Milan has been missing over the last few years, is just that killer. That poacher that has that killer instinct, that goal instinct, and that guy is just incredible. The way he's able to get behind the defenders on runs, the way he positions himself to be in these scoring positions. It's a natural talent, I believe. It's hard to teach that.
He's a hunter of just space. He will find any opportunity to find space, and you put that ball in that area, he is going to make sure to finish it off. With Higuain, it was just, it had to be perfect. It had to be at his feet. That's why, he scored, 8 or 9 goals in 22 appearances, which is absolutely horrendous. He's at Chelsea now, and he's scored only 3 goals.
3 goals. Yeah, 3
goals in 9 matches.
He hasn't been very impressive.
So it's like, fuck off with him. We don't need him in our squad, and he's not the direction that we're looking to head in.
Yeah,
he's too busy eating Nutella.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one thing being in a slump, but it's another thing when you're just mentally not happy. You understand the circumstance that you're in. You see that Milan is in the middle of a project, and they're trying to make their way back to the top. You have to understand that, and he didn't. And Milan relied so much on him to help bring them back to the Champions League position. He promised the fans. He said he would give it his all after he apologized after getting a red card against Juventus in the first matchup of the season
and missing the penalty.
Missing the penalty is one thing. I can understand him taking that penalty. I kind of like that he did, because he's like, I want to score against these guys that didn't want me. I respect that. He misses it. It was a well-struck penalty. It was a great save by Szczęsny. Yeah. He just knew where it was going the entire time, because he was familiar with him. But what I wanted was more of that. More that more hunger,
more desire, more fire.
Yeah, that desire to push forward, to make up for that mistake, and really feed on it and pour in more goals. And he had so many opportunities to put goals in the back of the net this year, and he really failed on it. And you could see towards the end of his tenure that he didn't want to be here. And like I said before, it was for the best.
So going to the other end of the field, Donnarumma. AC Milan brings in Pepe Reina at the beginning of the season, and Donnarumma's had a pretty good year. Again, much like the rest of the team, they've had their ups and downs. How much of a role has Pepe Reina played in the growth of Donnarumma this season?
I think he plays a really big role. He even said it himself that he understands his role at Milan right now. Yeah, he's still a pretty damn good goalkeeper. Yeah, he's proven that throughout his entire career. He's a guy with experience. He's a guy with age. He's been around the block quite a few times. He's had a lot of success, and he's always had that positive attitude, that good leadership trait. And I think it's applying really well with Donnarumma, working with him. And he said early in the year that his objective, he knows his role, and his objective is to turn Donnarumma into one of the best goalkeepers, if not one of the best, the best goalkeeper in the world. And
he certainly has the potential for it.
Absolutely. And, he's only 19 years old. People are forgetting this. He's only 19 years old, and he's had over 150 appearances with AC Milan?
Over 150.
That's insane.
That's Maldini talk right there.
He might break his appearance record.
Yeah, with Donnarumma, everything is going to be magnified. Any mistakes that he makes is going to be, put up on a huge billboard, just because it comes with the territory that he created on his own with the contract, and then just the salary demands and everything. But I think Reina is a great balance for him, because not only just for him, but for the team, he really raises that morale level, and he brings another level of happiness and unity to the team. So it's not just, professionalism and an ability to be a great goalkeeper, but he really implements a nice, sound attitude on the team, which is, you can't pay for that.
All right, so Giacomo Bonaventura is obviously a club favorite. Do you think Milan keeps him, or do you think they sell him at the end of the season?
So even though he's been injured, Bonaventura has given this club so much. I think that they are already talking about his contract renewal, despite not, touching a ball this season again after his injury. But he just proves to be so crucial. He adds another element of creativity that we don't have. And I hate saying this, but when he comes back, it's going to be like a new signing. Pairing him up with Paqueta, Bakayoko, Suso, you're going to see just another element of our attack that didn't really exist before, that I think sometimes Kessie kills. Which, I'm not trying to play him down, but we need another element of just skill and flair and magic, and that's what Jack brings.
Yeah, and he also brings that same character that Reina provides. He's a guy that's been at the club for a very long time, a fan favorite, really, really respectable player. A lot of players around the league respect him. He has a great attitude. Jack is. I love Jack. He's a great. I don't want to say he's a great player. He's been very good for Milan. He's great with the ball, creating opportunities and goal scoring chances, pushing forward, and he contributes well to track back on defense. He's been great, but I don't really know how much longer he's going to be at Milan. especially with the FFP going on and his value still being a little high. I don't know, maybe around 20 million or so.
Yeah.
I can kind of see Milan just making that sacrifice of just selling him just to get that extra profit. I don't know.
Don't break my heart, Rui.
I know, man, but I don't want to see him go because I love Jack. And like you said, I think he'd work great with Paqueta. Especially for another season. If Kessié stays, I think he can learn a lot with Bonaventura, as he has already. And I really do see Kessié really being the next midfielder after Jack. So I think probably for another season he'd be great, unless if he wants to stay and accept a role where he's not going to be playing as many minutes, because Milan really do need to improve many positions in order to be back on top of, the top four, but also contending for the Serie A, contending for the Champions League. They can't just rely on certain players. They have to build around the certain few that have stood out this year and just flourish from there.
Okay, so really quickly, what do you guys think of Milan's defensive performance up to this point and the play of players like Romagnoli, Musacchio, Rodriguez?
Man, I think Romagnoli's, he's fantastic. I think he's been a brick wall the entire season. His tackle success percentage is extremely high. Guys, I don't know, as of, late February, or maybe early March, no one has been able to dribble by the guy. I don't know if it's happened since, but the guy's been absolutely incredible. He's a future player. He's going to be one of the best defenders in the world if he's not already. Alongside of him, Musacchio, he's been pretty good this year, but as I said before, Milan need to have more and able to go further, to compete with Juventus, to compete with Napoli, even to compete with Inter that are also up on the rise, and to compete in the Champions League. I think they need a couple of more steps. I think Caldara is going to be a great fill-in. Unfortunately, he's been hurt all year. We haven't been able to see his potential. I think he's going to be very, very good, I hope. But on the flanks, Calabria, he's a young player. I like him. Also, I think he's going to be one of the best right backs when he's in his prime. It's still going to take a couple of more years or so to really see him being compared alongside the other best right backs in the world. And on the other side, Rodriguez, I like the guy. As I've mentioned before in the podcast, I've been a little critical of him. I love how he's absolutely incredible at crossing the ball. But my only problem with him is him tracking back and getting forward. And I don't think he's really that comfortable with the ball. When he manages to get forward, he tends to do this thing where he just like turns sideways. He cuts over, kind of like a stiff player in FIFA does. And it just like frustrates me so much because I really do like Rodriguez, because he works really hard and he's improved a lot on his defense since last year. It's just, I just don't think he's really enough, and he's in his mid-20s. He's not like a young prospect. I think he's a good player, but as I said, Milan just need more to really get to the top of Europe.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're looking at. They're looking at a few other outside back potential signings for the summer. So we'll see where that goes. But going back to Romagnoli, just hands down, the best, one of the best defenders in the league. We're talking about the Koulibalys, the Chiellinis of the world, and Romagnoli is right up there, toe to toe. Can handle anything coming at him. Just unstoppable brick wall. And then, Calabria, he just surprised us all this whole season between his crossing, just, getting up and down the flanks, and the way he's shut down some of the, attacking players that we've played against. It's been very, very good to see. So it's good to see how young our defense is and where we're going. And the thing with Rodriguez, I think it is what it is what it is for now. I think we'll deal with him and then kind of try to improve, going into the summer. But I think Champions League is what's going to dictate kind of a lot of the direction that we take for the new players.
Mm-hmm. All right, a couple more questions before we finish up. First one, if you were in Gattuso's position and you could create a perfect lineup, what would your ideal starting 11 be?
Sure. I mean, if I could play 3 at the back with Romagnoli, Caldara, and Musacchio, then I would definitely implement Jack into my 11. But I think since we've been doing 4-3-3, I would do Donnarumma in net, Ricky, Romagnoli, Musacchio, Calabria, Bakayoko, Biglia, Kessie, Suso, Paqueta, and Piontek up top.
That's a pretty good formation. Yeah, I'm not gonna go with a back 3. I'm gonna go with a 4-3-3. I'm gonna do Rodriguez. Well, obviously Donnarumma in the back. Rodriguez at left back, Romagnoli, Musacchio, Calabria, making up the defense from left to right. And from the 3 center midfielders from left to right, Paqueta, Bakayoko, and Jack. And then up top, Hakan, Piatek, and Suso.
Damn, it's hard. Gattuso's job is hard because I don't have Hakan.
No? Well, you have Barini?
Nah, fuck that.
No, man.
Barini's my boy. Let him play against me.
There are a lot of diehard Barini
he played
fans.
pretty damn good.
Yeah, man.
He
guy's a
played
hustler.
pretty damn good against Juventus. I was surprised.
You can't hate on Barini. There's a lot of diehard Barini fans on Twitter.
That guy, man, he proves
catch you
his
some shit.
worth. He proves his worth. So,
Man,
hey,
I love his hustle. And I think he really loves AC Milan.
He does.
He loves playing for AC Milan, but that guy pisses me off. But I don't mind him. I respect his, tenacity, and he's got that very high work rate. I don't know how it is. That guy's got so many fucking fans on Twitter. I don't understand that.
Hey, man, if it's on Twitter, then you know it's real.
Absolutely.
But what about the current project? What excites you the most? What do you think that management is doing well?
Well, I love Paulo Maldini. So knowing that he's there, that's just a guy. He's just so humble. He's so genuine, and I think he has that old school mentality of, I want things done the right way, and I think that's why he's been neglecting over the years. I think that's the reason why he's neglected, participating in any project that Milan was in, if he didn't believe that it would actually work. And finally, they got it down with the new ownership and everything. There's a new vision, and it looks very, very positive. That's very exciting. Leonardo has done an incredible job, especially being able to steal Paqueta from Real Madrid and Liverpool and other big clubs that wanted him.
2 huge transfers this winter that kind of changed the face of our season.
Absolutely. And I believe those 2 are the reincarnation of Kaká and Shevchenko. Maybe that's a stretch. But
it's out there. It's out there.
I can see it. So, Leonardo, Maldini, they've been doing great. I'm happy with that. I love the young players that they've been able to pick up. Was it Thiago Jallo from Sporting Youth Academy? Thiago Jallo is going to be a great talent, and we've seen some footages of him on Twitter and on YouTube, making great tackles in the back in this Primavera squad. So I think he's going to be very promising, and on top of that, all the young players that we've already mentioned, players
Maldini.
Like Paqueta, Maldini's son, he's been playing really good, scored a couple of free kicks this year.
Yep.
Paqueta, Kessie, Bakayoko, Piatek, Caldara, all these are new signings over the last couple of years. And Bakayoko isn't finalized yet, but it's most likely a done deal at the end of the season because he's just been playing so well. But the 4 main guys, for me personally, it's Donnarumma, Romagnoli, Piatek, and Paqueta.
Straight through the middle.
Straight through the middle. Those are the guys that you really want to build around. And I think a few of these right here mentioned, I think they can grow, they can flourish very well.
Absolutely. And moving on to targets. So where do you see us having a successful season? Is it Champions League and winning Copa?
Yeah. I mean, if I had to choose one or the other, obviously the Champions League, it'll bring us more revenue and we'll play in a competition. It guarantees a sold out stadium next season in the home games. Brings, it attracts the fans, attracts the football world to Milan once again. So if I had to choose one or the other, obviously the Champions League, but the Copa, I really want to win that. I really want to win a trophy this year. especially with all the young players and that are here, and they're all here for this project. I think it's going to just motivate them when they see that reaction from the Milan fans of winning the silverware. I think it's really going to spark them even more.
That's where it comes from. So Biglia is probably not going to be renewing. There's talks about signing Bruno Fernandes. I mean, right now he's on fire. He just equaled Frank Lampard's season high of 27 goals. So he's doing big things in Portugal for Sporting. He had a really good campaign in the Europa League, playing really well, just providing Sporting for that, much needed spark. So if we were to get a player like Bruno Fernandes, I would not object to it.
No, I wouldn't either, especially with, obviously the season that he's had this year. It's been incredible. The most goals for a central midfielder since Frank Lampard. It's just, incredible. It's an incredible feat. Even last year, too, the previous season, he had a very good season. He was always recognized from the big clubs as a very promising young player. We saw him in the World Cup. He did okay. Portugal didn't have the best campaign, but we saw him in a few matches. He played so, but he was there for a reason. He was chosen for a reason because he does have the potential. He can adapt almost anywhere among the midfield positions. I would love to have him. I think he'd be great alongside Paquetá, maybe with Bakayoko or Kessié dropping, taking care of the defensive duties. I think him there is just going to add another playmaker, someone that can also score, not in the box, but from outside of the box. And if he doesn't score, he can create. And I think that's very, very crucial for Milan, especially when you have a killer like Piatek up top.
And having some experience in Italy always helps as well.
Yeah,
Spent some time at Sampdoria, before returning to Portugal. But, it just adds to his character. He's adaptable. He's able to, play in different leagues. So very much looking forward to seeing how that pans out.
Okay, guys, really quickly to finish up here, one simple question. Gattuso in or Gattuso out?
In.
I
love Gattuso.
Right.
He's an honest guy. He's very humble, and he's a young coach. He makes a few mistakes, but I think he's just gonna get better with time. He's gonna learn from his mistakes, just like his team has. It's a young team. He's a young coach. It's all gonna play out, and I think Milan, if they make it to the Champions League, he'll stay, and it'll work out for the best because it's better to keep someone like that than going after someone that's much, much more expensive.
Gattuso, as inexperienced as he is, he has played, or he had made us play some of the best football, year to date in the last few seasons between Gattuso, between Mihajlovic, and between Montella. We played some of the best ball under Gattuso. Went toe-to-toe with Juventus last week. It was unfortunate, the result, but just the way that these boys are playing, moving the ball out the back. Donnarumma is being exceptional with his feet. Bar that error versus Sampdoria, but it's great to see how much these boys have improved under Gattuso, and his tactics are definitely apparent. So I'm happy with the way that the team has been progressing. Not so much the results, but I know that we have the rest of the season to rely on. It's like what Romagnoli said, we have 7 finals remaining till the end of the season, and it could really make or break our season. So I'm looking forward to seeing, what he gets these guys to do for the remaining games. But the most important thing I think he does is, deliver that morale, and he gives, a very trustworthy relationship to his players. He always backs his players, always goes, to the forefront for his players and has their back, which is key.
Yeah, and he's a man of very little excuses. He always mentions the wrongs first. He's not the guy. Yeah, Milan has a few cases this season where the referees didn't really go their way, but he never mentions that. He mentions the struggles, the mistakes first, and then he goes about and gives an analysis on the rest of the team, the rest of the team's performance. I think one thing that I really love about Gattuso is how the players love to play for him. and it's really hard to see that. And despite what happens this year, it's hard to lose a manager or get rid of a manager when the entire locker room just absolutely adores him and respects him and just wants to play for him. At the end of the season, I think Gattuso's going to make it happen. I think 4th place and a Champions League spot for next season.
Yeah, I think he'll seal the deal. I think the calendar is in our favor to make the most of the results. Gattuso, leading up to the Juve game, he said, right now our main problem is not the tactical aspect, but how we approach our games mentally. We have to free our mind, play fearlessly, and with enthusiasm. When this happens, one tends to play with more confidence. So I think that's going to be the overarching message, going into the last stretch of games.
Yeah.
So we'll see, a revitalized Milan, after that Juve loss. I think that it will motivate a lot of the players to get, bigger and better results, to qualify for Champions League.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. The rest of the other teams have a tougher schedule than Milan. There's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse now. So 4th place, Milan's going to finish.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us this week on the Red Card Report podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please head over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Also, don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button on any of your favorite podcast apps. You'll get all the latest updates and notifications. That way you'll never miss an episode of the show. Lastly, be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Our Instagram and Facebook is at Red Card Report, all one word, and also our Twitter is at RCR_podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening, and join us next time for another edition of the Red Card Report.